All right, I'd like to call the August 12th Road Committee meeting to order. Everyone is here except for Cindy, who has been excused. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm very glad to see so many people here. I'd like to welcome everyone, and in a little bit, I'm going to give people an opportunity to speak. Everyone on the road committee understands the concerns that the people on West Shore Drive and Square Pond have with that culvert. The culvert needs to be replaced, and we do understand that almost all of you want to see it replaced with an in-kind culvert. Unfortunately, we have 3 regulatory agencies that have to weigh in. I miscounted. That three regulatory agencies that need to weigh in on the replacement of the culvert. And that would be Inland Fisheries, Maine DEP, and the Army Corps of Engineers. The culvert is very important because there's over 100 homes that would be cut off if the culvert ever failed, and there would be no way for them to have fire or rescue. And the road committee feels that, this isn't so much about the boats, but it is about public safety. And we're bringing this up at this particular point because there is another grant period that is opening up where the state is offering $125,000 toward stream crossing replacements. And we did an awful lot of work last year, because there was a grant period then. The grant was never submitted because of, people didn't, I don't think, perhaps didn't understand what the regulatory requirements are. We have a packet of information explaining what the different agencies are looking for. The only one, I didn't put in anything from DEP. Will could probably address DEP. But I did have Inland Fisheries and Army Corps of Engineers. Army Corps is going to be the one doing the primary permitting, and they have some very strict requirements. And the first 2 pages of your packet come directly from their manual that comes with the permit that has to be sent in. And it states that it is crossings designed and constructed using techniques and principles outlined in Stream Smart or Habitat Connectivity Design. Crossings are to be designed 1.2 bank width full. What that means is it has to be wider than the stream. It goes on to say in-stream work is limited to July 15th to September 30th. No slip lining, no culvert extensions. And it's goes on, there's 2 pages explaining what the conditions are for the stream work and crossings. And so I made sure that you guys all had that, so you would have that, know what we're up against. last year we did speak with, where is it? Inland Fisheries. In the grant that we had proposed, we had had a sketch plan done. In the sketch plan, the proposed culvert was 16 foot by 8 foot high. When Inland Fisheries saw that, they wanted to see at least 8 foot of open height above the high water mark. And we could probably get away with the 8 foot if we pressed really hard. So we must meet all of the requirements from these 3 agencies. The current culvert, I went down and measured because I have not been able to find any paperwork at the Registry of Deeds about the size of the easement. Inland Fisheries sent me a copy of their survey. It wasn't on their survey, so I went down and measured. Across the road, from the end of the culvert to the other end, is 37.5 foot. The other dimensions are on the lakeside part. It's 28 foot from the Gambian basket to the Gambian basket, and on the boat launch side, it's 35 foot. And according to Army Corps, they figured the 1.2 bank width was 15.1 foot, and we had proposed 16. And that was to replace the 10.5 foot round pipe. A couple other things to keep in mind is that the amount of the water in the channel is going to affect what size boats you can put through whatever culvert or crossing is there. And according to Stream Stats, there is an average of 3 foot of water in the channel. And we also looked at how many trucks and trailers could be put in the parking lot at any one time. And I had asked Will to go down and try to ballpark that. And Will, what did you think that?
I'm assuming most people just park in the little parking lot, or they park on the side of the road. Like, the majority of people park in that little parking lot right there, right? Does anybody park on the side of the road? I'd probably say, with a regular sized boat, you could probably put maybe 20, 25 vehicles there, maybe.
With the trailer?
Yeah, with a trailer. I don't own a boat, so I don't know how long a decent sized boat trailer is, but.
So,
18 to 25 feet?
Yeah, so you could probably put 25 vehicles in there, probably, I'd say, maybe 30 at the most, to pull out safely after, unless people are parking in the middle, but I'd say probably 30, probably.
yeah. So, I don't, and we would like to see the culvert replaced sooner than later. We don't feel that taking the chance on public safety, is a good thing. However, it's gonna be, we need the cooperation from the residents and property owners, on West Shore Drive. Like I said, we can apply for a grant of $125,000. Last year, it was estimated that the precast box culvert that we were looking at was going to be approximately $200,000 to buy and install. So that would pay for almost half of it. We are not obligated to take these funds if awarded, and it will help alleviate a burden on the taxpayer, plus preserving the life and safety and property of anyone who lives beyond that culvert. The precast box culvert, the lifespan is estimated to be about, I think they said 100 years. So we're looking at a very, very long-term solution rather than replacing a culvert every 20, 30 years. If we, and I don't believe that we would ever get a permit to replace a round culvert in that location. The gentleman I spoke to at Army Corps pretty much said there will be a bigger culvert there at some point, whether it be now or later. We can kick the can down the road. I don't advise doing that. I'd like to see some support in the town applying for the grant. Like I said, the money does not have to be accepted if we're awarded it. If it comes down to the, town meeting saying no. So, does anyone else on the board have anything to say before I open it up to?
Yeah, I do. I've talked to numerous people in West Shore Drive about this, and I guess, from last year, I know there's quite a bit of uncertainty from a lot of people down there, and I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it. But what I'm really thinking we're gonna have to do now is I'm gonna have to get like the Army Corps engineer out there, DEP, and everybody on that road be invited, and I think you guys need to hear it from them. This is what we can, this is what we can't do. We can only tell you that, but they do it every day. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what we're gonna push for here. Once we get done with the meeting tonight, I'd like to start making phone calls next week and set something up, because I think that's what's gonna determine it all. If we can get the people out there that are gonna permit it and that deal with it every day, then that might, give you guys a different feeling about it.
I think the important people would be Colin with Army Corps and Deanna with Inland Fisheries. I think they're the two key people that need to come out.
Yeah, because when I talk to him, he knows exactly what we're going up against, and he pretty much told me I don't see any way getting around it. And he's like, he hasn't been down in a while. He's like, I'd like to come down again and look at it, and we could, maybe come up with a different plan. But I don't know what he's gonna say until he gets here. Is what it's coming down to right now. And to be honest, if we have to push the grant off a year, we'll push it off. As the road commissioner, I'll push the grant off if that's what has to be done. I don't want to miss out on the opportunity for the money, but I want to make sure everybody's happy with what's going to happen.
Well, we have to apply for the grant. The grant period opens up August 30th and closes November 11th, I believe. If we don't apply in that period, the grant period is done. We won't have that money. We won't.
I know that, but
So there needs to be a consensus.
But the problem's gonna be, is if we do that again and everybody's happy, we're gonna be here again next year, and people are just gonna be more, pissed off about the situation. So if we have to push it back, I'd rather go.
We have 2 years to use the money.
Well, I know that, but I'd rather just go with them, I'd rather just get, have them come out, hey, this is what we can and can't do, and to be honest with you, we'll have to put it together, and this is what it's gonna cost, and put it on the warrant, and make the town pay for it if it comes down to it. That's where I'm at now, and if the residents don't like what's gonna happen, they'll have to go to town meeting and vote it down. That's where I'm at right now with this.
I'd like to see the state, us get, recoup some of our tax money that we pay to the state every year. But also, on the other hand, we spent a tremendous amount of hours putting a grant together last year that was not submitted at the last minute because there was pushback.
Why?
I'm sorry?
Why?
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 Well, because the selectmen would not submit it. They would not sign it.
Well, I think the concerns that the people that called and the emails and the concerns that people had, which is, I have no problems with the concerns and stuff like that. So that's why, if we're gonna do this one last time, we need to do it right, because like I said, we're gonna be here again next year if we
Yeah.
don't do it the right way.
So this is why you are all here. I mean, I'd like to hear, we all know that everyone would like to see it replaced in kind. That 99.9% will not happen. So what are some other solutions, or some other proposals? Rather than just saying, no, we don't want to do it this way. And that's why I gave the packets out, so you would know what we were looking at. So I'd like to hear some potential solutions, ideas, brainstorming, whatever you want to call it, as to how we can move forward, get that culvert taken care of.
Well, I got one question. I guess with everybody in the room, what's everybody's feelings on the culvert? As the residents that live on that road, own property, what are your feelings on that culvert? Was that a thing you should just push down the road for a few more years, or is it something that you want replaced? That's where I'm at too. That's the question I was gonna ask tonight. How concerned is everybody about the culvert? Because this all came up 4 or 5 years ago when the former road commissioner was gonna have a slip lined, and, you know, the state goes out every single year, inspects it. You know, they said it's, you know, it's getting down there, you know, so that's when the ball started turning, and, you know, we can't slip line anymore. So I guess my question to you guys, and the other thing too, you gotta remember, there's safety involved here. There's no, you know, and so I just wanna know from people that live there, what's your concern on the culvert?
Yeah. When you come up, please state your name and what property you own. The
My name
address?
is Lee Robitor, and my wife and I are residents of Acton, Maine, at 858 West Shore Drive. I'm also the president of Square Pond Improvement Association.
Yep.
And we fully understand the condition, well, we don't fully understand. We recognize that the culvert needs to be addressed, and we're all in favor of having it addressed. Our major concern is that Square Pond we had a 2019 watershed survey done, and the results of that survey indicated that our watershed is a relatively small watershed. The quality of the water is considered high, and we're at high risk. We're vulnerable for deterioration, is the way that the survey came out. And
What was the actual risk? Because they usually,
the risk is overdevelopment,
okay.
okay? And the level of activity on the lake and the potential impact of having invasive plants coming in is significant. And we have a very active volunteer group of people that are monitoring the lake. We do inspections all the way around the lake every year through our invasive plant control. We have a very active group of people trying to get rid of Chinese mystery snails that were introduced into the lake through some source. We obviously don't know, but the public launch is a potential area that both came in through there, but we don't know that for sure.
And Lee, you know, 3 of us on this board live on Great East Lake.
Yep.
We understand exactly what you're talking about. So, because we have our own challenges on that particular lake. So, believe me, we understand the concerns.
The water turnover at Square Pond is like roughly 25% per year. The water turnover at Mousom Lake is 2 to 3 times per year. Their whole water flow is totally different.
Yeah.
If we have problems in our lake, it'll be there for a long time and be very difficult to resolve. It's just the nature of the water basin that we have. It's a spring-fed lake.
Yeah.
And so we take it very serious. And I'm going to hand out, this is our latest effort to educate people on what's going on. I don't know if I have enough for everybody, but we just published this. We gave this out to every resident on the lake, and we gave it to code enforcement people. I can get you some more. I'm not sure how many. So you look at where the public launch is.
Mhm.
It's an ecologically sensitive area. And when we do the invasive plant control, It is such a difficult area to monitor. We bring in our most experienced plant inspection people, and we brought in professionals to go down there and to make sure that there hasn't been the introduction of invasive plants down there. And ASYCC does a tremendous job of trying to do the courtesy boat inspections. They have limited resources. The hours that they're there do not include all the time that the boats are entering and exiting the lake. And it's a major concern to us, because as you know, if you live on a lake, once the invasive plants, milfoil gets into your lake, it deteriorates the value. And the value of these properties is a significant portion of the tax base of the town of Acton. And you don't want to have erosion of the quality of the water. And it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that doesn't happen. So that all ties back to the size of the access point to the lake. And our concern is to maintain the quality of the lake. We are now dealing with bladder boats. These are, wakeboard boats where they have water bladders in them. And they're designed to make bigger waves. And it destroys the shoreline to a greater extent. So if you read through our book, we're asking them to stay out in the middle of the lake further so it doesn't erode the shorelines. But also, that's not in there, is that the larger boats will have a negative impact on the vegetation. Wakeboard boats should not be used in waters less than 10 feet deep. And as you pointed out, the public launch is only 3 feet deep, and it's going to have a negative impact if larger boats are accessing the lake through that public launch. So that's why we feel so adamantly about maintaining the size of the access point, so people that can come in with kayaks and things and fishing boats have access to it, but keeps the bigger boats out. And I did notice in your application the 8-foot high. And then other sections talk about 8 feet from the high water line.
Yeah, that's what inland fisheries would like to see, an 8-foot
Right.
height. We didn't propose an 8-foot
Right.
height.
Right.
We tried to,
And I don't know how you negotiate that. with
yeah, I don't either. I mean, it's, they understand that the culvert needs replacing, because I had a couple lengthy conversations with him. And he understands, well, he says he understands. Let me rephrase that. But his concern is access.
Well, we had to go around with that individual who asked, I had a call 2 weeks ago, from maybe 3 weeks now, asking us to remove our information board from the public launch entrance. And I said, why? It's information to help educate people
Yeah.
on what they should be doing around the lake to protect the lake.
And that was Inland Fisheries that did that?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you
It's the
talked?
same individual you're talking to.
Okay, have you talked to the wardens?
The game wardens?
Yeah, the game
I don't
wardens.
see many of them.
No, I know, but maybe that might be something especially to do with the boats that are speeding and creating the big wakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that they're the only ones that would have any jurisdiction over,
I don't think that's, I don't know. People on Square Pond, how many wardens have you seen out there this year?
Zero.
Yeah.
They're underground.
but maybe they don't realize there's a problem. Maybe just a phone call to them. I mean, because we don't see them on Grady's Lake either.
We've made a phone call and they haven't shown up.
No? Okay.
So, I mean, there's going to be some legislation coming down about potential, the bladder boat, the big wakeboard boats.
Yeah.
Some of the states are starting to look into it now.
It's still, I mean, you can pass any law in the world, in the world, but if there's no enforcement, and that's the problem.
So, as I said, our goal is to preserve the lake, the quality of the lake, and maintain it for generations to come. I'm third generation on the lake, my grandkids are fifth. So we have a vested interest,
Yep.
as many people do, to make sure the quality. And You know, we've seen the changes that are occurring on that lake, and it's frightening to many of us.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, all right, so what would happen if that culvert failed tomorrow?
Right. It's a problem.
So, I mean, it's, I agree with Will, we need to get at least Army Corps down here, inland fisheries. There was two gentlemen I spoke to at inland fisheries, perhaps the other one is, Nick is the one we should reach out to instead of Deanna?
Yeah.
Oh, because two of them have responded, so.
Just a couple of things in your application. I watched all the videos that they referenced, and stream crossings, from what I saw, didn't even apply to this culvert. And I know it's on the list. I don't understand why it is on the list. It's part of the lake on both sides. The brook actually starts west of the public launch. The water isn't really flowing back and forth through there. The water on each side of that culvert is the same height. If you get 2 inches of rain and it rises up, everything rises up.
Yeah. Army Corps, when I spoke with them, they're the ones that said it should be a stream crossing. So that was coming
And
from
I
them.
don't understand the 1.2 times when there's no sides to the brook to even document
That, I mean,
of the stream. If you do that, you take out the entire road and then 20% to that.
yeah,
It doesn't make any sense to me,
we're,
but I'm not an engineer.
because I know Colin had addressed that, the figure. Yeah, the Stream Stats website models the bankful width of this stream as 12.6 foot. As such, the new crossing should be at least 15.1 foot wide. So that was where the 16, yeah.
I'd love to see how they calculate it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, this came from the state, which are the calculations that we have to go by. So that was where the 16-foot wide came from, was it needed to be at least 15.1.
Where did the 8 feet above high water come from?
I think the engineer that we hired,
Probably from
Took that.
floods. It's probably how that was dictated.
Oh,
For a
you
100-year
did?
flood, maybe.
yeah.
So
So-
the town of Acton's hired an engineer?
We had,
I had an engineer look at it, just because we needed a print, so I don't, that's beyond my expertise, so that's what he designed.
Mine too.
That's what he designed, and that's the other thing too, is I think that we need, like I said, we need to have that, because I talked to him 2.5 weeks ago, and he was just firing off a bunch of these problems, that's gonna occur if we even did this, and finds all this stuff. But the other problem is too, like I said, DEP, you call DEP, you tell them what you wanna do, this and that, they say, okay, go right ahead, do it permit by rule. Then you try to explain it to them, I said, there's constant water, there's always water in there. Oh, that's not a problem, go ahead and do it, go do what you gotta do. And you talk to Colin and Army Corps engineers, like, well, Will, you touch that, he says, you're talking big fines, because, then there goes polluting the lake, if I get dirty water in there, we're working, I gotta pump that water off and haul it off, I mean,
It's part of the lake, I don't know how you're gonna dry it out.
yeah.
that's
But I
what,
mean,
and that's the bit, and that's like, I think, that's like the number one biggest concern, is like drying that up, and you're talking, if fish have to go through there. I mean, he was naming off things left and right that day when I was talking to him, and he's like, the only way you could really do it without getting a permit is if you can rip the hot top up, pull that one out and throw a brand new one in there, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, go to that Spears website or Facebook page, and you'll see a friend of yours, it's a big snapping turtle.
Yeah, exactly.
About a month to say hi to you.
yeah.
Well, that's the problem, they're like, well, if you start damming it up, this and that, if there's something needs to go in there, you dry that out, and he's like, well, you could, kill off this, or maybe that, if it takes longer, I mean, and it all comes back to, you start doing that, it all comes back to fines, that's That's why I'm stressing this very hard, that I need to have the Army Corps of Engineers out there, DEP, inland fisheries, and we all just need to butt each other's heads out there, and this is what we can, we can't do. And I don't wanna go no further with nothing until I have them out there. That's,
And I'm with you all the way, Will, and I agree with that. All I can tell you is, if you don't watch out, your little paradise lake will be irreparably damaged if it's not done correctly.
oh, and
The
I,
amount of volunteer hours it takes to maintain that.
I know, we had the conversation on Friday, you told me that what you guys do, and I, you know, I don't think any other lake does stuff like that, so you guys, and like I said,
We have a team that's ready to go, and on a moment's notice, if we ever find a problem in that lake, I mean, it's remarkable, the amount of support we get from the people around the lake.
like I said, like we talked on Friday, I told you, you know, what, I understand all the concerns, but, you know, I just need to know what we can and can't do.
You don't want Arrowhead Lake problem.
No.
And we don't, but unfortunately, we have 3 regulatory agencies that all have different rules that
And
we
they're
not.
supposed to be protecting the same bodies of water we're trying to protect.
Right.
We should be all on the same page.
We should. You're absolutely right, we should be. And hopefully we can find that sweet spot and where, you know, everyone's not gonna be happy, but, you know, something that we can all live with and at the same time protecting the lake.
Thank you.
Yep.
My name is Heather Beaupre. I am part owner of 1062 West Shore Drive. I'm 4th generation. My kids are dead. I have a couple questions. So the current tonnage that's allowed to go over the culvert now is not posted.
Will, how much, is there any limits on how much can go over that?
No, I looked in the bridge report, I couldn't find anything in the bridge report.
So moving forward, we'd like one. So
Okay.
there's a whole lot of work going on across that bridge, big heavy trucks.
Oh,
that
yeah.
can't-
Do you have-
Can't be helping.
Do you have the authority to post that?
Well, I can post it, but I'd have to run it by the selectmen and all that stuff and post it. But the other problem is too, you post it, who's gonna stop them, you know? Then we have to have the state police down there and all that stuff. I mean, we can post it, but I'm not saying that nobody's gonna go over it.
Understood, but if we don't have a limit, then it's like speed limit. If you don't have a speed limit, then you can't tell anybody you're breaking it.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and then I just want, so the current culvert is 8 feet, sorry, right?
No, at 10 and a half.
10 and a half. So the new one you were proposing,
Well, that was the initial proposal. I mean, that we can change if what we had initially proposed was 16 foot wide by 8 foot tall.
and.
It was a
3 feet that's underwater.
Precast culvert. There's, you know, I don't know enough about the engineering.
Well, I'm trying to picture
yeah.
it, right? So we've got, all right, so 10 and a half feet round now. So if we kind of squash it, we're going 16 feet by only 8.
Is
Yeah.
that going to be rectangular or going to be square?
It would be a rectangle.
So
Around 16 feet which way?
16 feet
Wide.
wide across, not.
It'd be a lot lower.
Yeah, it'd be
Right,
low.
A lot
it's
lower,
gonna be
so
lower.
smaller boats would only be able to get through it.
6 boats a lot, 6 boats across can go through. I mean, that's what I'm trying to picture. So we're actually gonna help us not have really tall, big boats go in. We're still gonna have the same 3 feet of depth. Is that, I think if we could understand enough about that, then we
The
wouldn't
inland
be so
fisheries
worried.
are gonna require it to be 8 feet above the high water mark.
That's what Inland Fisheries wants to see, is 8
Well, that's what they
foot.
want, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
the state's right. I mean, it doesn't mean we can't fight them on certain points if as a town, we can agree on it. Right?
Right.
Because we want it not any bigger.
Right.
And if we're actually making it a little shorter,
So wins.
then,
What's the height of the water now?
so but if we're talking about 3 feet of water and 8 feet total, that's only 5 feet above the water. Worst case scenario, it's 8 feet above the water and we have to fight that point.
I think the 3 feet is the
Three feet.
average.
And then 8
there's just average 3 foot of water in the channel.
That depth could be more than, in other words, the high water mark probably is higher. So if you're 8 feet above that, then that height is going to be 13 to 14 feet high.
And that's where we start to worry.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't understand all of those little,
Well, and that's the other thing, like, I can have the culvert re-engineered, we just gave them, when they engineered their culvert, I think like 2.5 years ago now, I just said, this is what I'm looking for, just put it in there so we can put it in the grant, but he said, if any time we wanna change it, we can change it, but if you shrink it, you gotta go, that's when the kind of the wider thing comes into play, so whatever you lose up here, you gotta gain down here, so. And then, like you said, we could make it shorter, maybe not any taller, you know what I mean? Like, but I'd have to call the guy that engineered it again, see how, because then you're talking like strengths and, lows, all that stuff, so I'd have to call him again. But he said, we can engineer it to whatever we want it to, if that's the route that it has to go.
and it has to be at least 15.1 foot wide, according to Army Corps.
So, again, they don't all have the same rules, so clearly
Yeah.
there's room to negotiate, hopefully.
And like-
But I'm just trying to say, if we could get those numbers set to a limit, or a maximum that would make us feel comfortable. Nobody wants it to fail, nobody wants.
No,
you know,
no,
stuff
I mean,
to
and
get there.
yeah,
My mother's up there, I don't want her alone, I don't want her, I don't want to go get the boat together.
so Heather, would you be comfortable with the 16 by 8?
As long as the 8 feet is not above the high water mark.
Yeah.
If it's 8 feet total, I think that sounds like close to what we've got.
Yeah, you need to
Yeah.
Do we know what the state has indicated they want to do there? I know what your proposal is, but what is the state saying?
Can you come up and identify yourself, please?
Certainly. Yes, good evening. I live at 542 West Shore Drive. My name is Tom Purdy. Has the state indicated what they're looking to build here, and putting aside what you proposed?
The state's not looking to do anything. Inland Fisheries knows that, well, part of the state, they know that the culvert needs to be taken care of. And in the paperwork that they've sent, they said, basically, the only thing that they qualified was they'd like to see 8 foot above the high water mark.
And any indication of how deep that high water mark is?
No.
Has anyone done an environmental impact study of any proposed bridge work? And I don't know if there'll be dredging or any other work being done there?
Not to my knowledge.
Would that be part of the project?
Would that be part of the project?
Dredging it out, and there'd be excavation.
Yeah.
No, but there'd be like there's gonna be no dredging at all, there's gonna be the excavation portion of it to whatever happens, but no, there wouldn't be no dredging, nothing like that.
I think what you're hearing is, I think we all know the bridge needs, or at least I can't speak for others, the bridge probably needs to be replaced. And I think we just need to understand what the project will entail, what the specifications will be of it, whether or not we'll have an influx of more boats coming into the lake, and the impact that's been talked about on the lake of that. I think the people on the lake just want to understand what is being proposed, and so you can assess what the impact is.
Well, Tom,
With regard to funding, it sounds like the funding may be going away after November. I was just reading about the infrastructure bill that was passed by Congress.
hasn't been passed, it's only been passed the Senate.
It passed the Senate, it's going to pass the House. There's a huge amount of money in there, projects just like this, so I would imagine there'll be more money in the future for that. In terms of the current bridge, has any engineering assessment been done on that? How imminent is the failure of that bridge?
Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know how imminent it might be, because with the volume of trucks that are going over there, with all of the heavy weights, the pipe itself, and Inland Fisheries told me this, it's not round anymore, it's starting to flatten. So, I've never been traversed through the thing to see it for myself. So it could last another 10, 20 years, it could fail tomorrow.
And there is on the bridge report, like they score, like I think don't quote me, but it was like, I think it was like in the 40s, I think.
It was, well, no, I think the last one I saw was 56, and once you hit 50, you're a candidate for replacement. Now, this was 2 years ago. They inspect the bridges every 2 years. So
That
when the
probably
next
make-
one comes out, we'll see some of the potential damage that all of these trucks, these construction trucks, may have done to that bridge.
Yeah, that makes us well.
I guess if we feel we need to move forward with the project, because we're concerned about safety and being cut off in there, I think it would be prudent to understand, well, what is exactly the condition of that bridge? Is there something that can be done by putting weight limits or what else on the bridge that can extend the life of the current bridge and give us an opportunity to more fully assess what kind of bridge might be appropriate, what the state and other agencies are going to be requiring, so that and what the environmental impact will be on the area. Because I don't think the money that's available through November, I suspect you'll find to be money available in future years as well.
Joyce Bakshi, 1466 West Shore Drive, just around the corner from all the construction. And yeah, there are too many boats, too many trucks, too many everything. I have gone through that culvert. I've gone through that culvert when there was not a lot of water, and I went through it. That was in a 18.5 Sylvan inboard outboard boat. I've been in there, I went through it another time when I had to push down, push up on the top of the culvert, push my boat down even further, and I couldn't get out. I had to get pulled out. It's a mess. We all know that. Now, some of the things that just came up, that culvert went in 1998. It's a Gideon basket culvert. Gideon baskets, you know what they are. Picture super strong chicken wire filled with riprap. The culvert is in, and these Gideon baskets are put in to hold it in place. It's not even like there's a keystone on the top. There isn't. It's Gideon baskets holding it in place. It was put in with a 20-year lifespan. 20 years was 2018. Not 2022, not 2023, 2018. It needs to be done. It can't withstand the traffic. I actually have pictures on my phone, had I known I'd have blown them up, of the holes that are inside. You know, I don't know how many of you have gone through, but the holes that it's just gone. You know, it's rusted out with huge holes. It needs to be gone. And while I agree with Lee 110%, we have a beautiful lake, beautiful water. I feel very special because we live in the northernmost end of the cove of the lake, in the further cove, and it's quiet up there. You know, I can look at people who live there with grandchildren. Our kids could be out in the middle of that cove and not one of us worried about it. Now when you go out into the middle of the lake, there are bigger and faster boats that really, the lake, Lee, would you think the lake is what, 3.5 miles, maybe, total length?
I don't think it's quite that.
Maybe not that long, 3 miles, maybe.
2.5.
I mean, they're coming down there like, well, excuse me, like a bat out of hell. I mean, they're really moving. And I understand all of that. But what I understand first and foremost is Right now, the bridge is being abused by the use. The bridge is 3 years over its intended lifespan. It needs to be done. Safety, you know, for the residents. I don't want to ever have to be in a situation where I call 911 and they say, oh, could you put your husband or kid in a boat and take them down to the Treasure Island launch site because we can't get to you? I've also heard fire departments say, hey, we need to do that. We're not going to risk our trucks over it. We'll fill the explosives deleted with dirt, so it doesn't fall. We don't want that either.
They can't do it.
No, of course we can. And there are all kinds of fines, but I mean, there's so many ideas and so much misinformation going on. We need to have it fixed. I think Will's idea of getting people here from Army Corps, New England Fisheries, DEP, perfect. The idea of having something re-engineered, perfect. But I don't think that has anything to do with applying or not applying with the grant, for the grant. The grant has a 2-year lifespan. We do not encumber the town by applying for it. You know, there are some grants, if you apply for them and you get them, you have to use it. This is not a grant like that. But it will save us on the other end, you know, going with the new engineering, a meeting with the powers that be to see what's going on. And if we have that all set up, of course, don't forget, then we do have to go to town meeting and vote the rest of the money to do the project. But that's my 2 cents worth.
My name is Rob Karen, I live at 926 West Shore Drive. I do all the water quality testing for Square Pond, as well as I lead the eradication of snails. I have just a simple question, and these are also from several people I've talked to. If we accept the grant, do we go by a different set of rules than if we just pay for it through town money?
No. No, because Army Corps is going to have the same regulations, whether we pay for it or whether the state...
If we don't accept the grant, or we accept the grant, the rules are no different?
The rules are no different.
Is there documentation that we can look that up, though? I mean, can you provide that?
The rules I passed out, they're on the...
These rules are...
They came from, no, those are rules from our Army Corps. I didn't even, the grant hasn't opened yet, so I don't have the
That's the big
documentation.
question for everybody, just so you know.
Yeah.
If the rules change, if we accept the grant versus whether we don't accept the grant, that makes a huge difference, because obviously, we know that the state wants a much bigger culvert there. They have before, they wanted it last time. So if we're going by state money and they have input into it, and they have more, basically say in what the size of the grant is, then that's the big push right there. So we want to make sure that that's...
Yeah, no, the Army Corps is the one that's going to be doing the majority of the permitting, because...
But inland fisheries, do they come into play?
Inland fisheries will have us, well, they're going to weigh in, whether we get the money for the grant. I don't know. Well,
inland fisheries has a say if you get a grant, but they don't if you don't get the grant.
no, they're going to have a say anyway, because they own part of that, part of the land next to it.
I don't believe that's true. I think the difference is that if we don't have the grant, then they don't really have a say. So I think we need to make sure that we have those facts together, and before we decide whether to take a grant or not.
I'm trying to, let me see.
See, here it is.
All right, so this was from Inland Fisheries, right here. I did see from the survey that the department's ownership extends to the west edge of the culvert, see survey attached. The deed for Mr. Pepin further grants any ownership interest they had adjacent to the purchased property to the center line of West Shore Drive. While it would still be subject to what appears to be a two-rod right-of-way for public travel, there may be portions of the land under West Shore Drive that are owned by the department around the culvert.
Doesn't say whether they have authority if we accept the grant or not. Well, that's not written in there at all. They're just making a
So-
statement,
Right,
right? So to me, that needs to be figured out before, and I can tell you that's what many of the residents in the area are concerned about. So if you can get that information and show it somewhere it's documented, then, so we better understand that, then we can look at accepting something.
okay, so you want to know if inland fisheries will have a say?
Or any of the three departments. Obviously, DEP is DEP, right?
DEP is going to, and Army Corps will.
They have no... No, this is what you're talking about.
Yeah, is that the survey?
So, anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
letting you know that that's really what we need to see. I mean, if inland fisheries is gonna dictate more if we accept the grant, and we already know that they want a much bigger culvert. They said it last time, it's been their big deal all along. So if it gives them more rights to dictate what size the culvert is by accepting the grant, then that's the pushback right there.
Okay.
So we need to find that out.
Okay, I can, my contact at DEP, he runs the grant program, so he can talk to me up until the time the grant opens, so I can call him and ask him that question.
Okay.
If,
So I'd like to see some writing, not just a guy on the phone. I mean, there must be some document, right, that says this is the situation if you accept the grant. In the grant itself, there must be...
well, the proposal hasn't come out yet, so I don't, I can refer to last year's grant, which, and it probably will be similar to last year's,
Okay.
but there could be changes in this year's. I don't know. I won't know that until I see
The
it.
general rules should be the same. I mean, they would put that in last year too.
Yeah,
I would
so,
assume
I will, I'll try to get that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Glenn Dobbin, I'm at 1432 West Shore Drive. I thank you for all the work that you're doing. We duly, truly appreciate the work that you're doing. There's a lot of progress. So please clarify something for me. The grant is $125,000 we applied for, correct? Did you say earlier today that if we were to replace the bridge, it would be $200,000?
That's what we estimated it to be last year under the stream crossing proposal that we were going to submit.
And that $200,000, what would the bridge look like? Exactly like it is, or the 16 by 8?
16 by 8.
Okay. So, thank you for the work. Major concerns is the safety of the road, safety of the bridge. And my opinion is the road commissioner, please do what you're going to do and ask for limits. Because if it was a 20-year bridge, and exceeded those 20 years, and controlling the amount of weight from stopping it from flattening will extend the life if we need to. What engineering background I have, the round is more straight than the straight. Makes sense? So maybe part of your design of the brainstorming, it's 16 feet wide, 8 feet above the line, you do an arc versus rectangular. That would make the bridge stronger. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so please find out load limits. If you need to go to the Board of Appeals or whatever, we would definitely appreciate that. That would extend the longevity of the bridge, so we're not worried about public safety and concern. I think it's a great idea that you get your information together from the three places that you need to, so you have an educated and informed decision that you make that you can present to us. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the people coming here tonight. I'm really glad they came out. This proposal And what the proposal is in reality, and the whole controversy is applying for a grant, which we can't do the project unless the town meeting votes to do the project anyway. The other issue, from my experience, is what you've got in this room is a whole lot of common sense. And the problem with that is you're dealing with state agencies. And past history will tell you that there isn't a heck of a lot of common sense. To appease, I guess, the people on West Shore Drive, I don't understand why we're not just leaving that culvert just like it is, not touching it, just leaving it. We've been getting by with it being like that for over 20 years. I'm sure some of you remember the old bridge we said before that. I used to plow over that many years ago. And I don't understand why we don't do the exact same thing we just did up here now. We scanned that bridge. We never touched the bridge. There was no impact on the lake. And you just leave everything status quo. The only thing you're curing is the public safety. And this is why, myself personally, when you have people involved in stuff that have no real position of commitment, like people on the lakes do, it just messes everything all up. We went through this, not just the last time with the culvert. I mean, people know what we went through last time when they did that. It was a big hoopla and a lot of very angry people, and some people liked it. A few years ago, as taxpayers, we just paid $500,000 for a new sand and salt shed because the one previously the state was involved in, and it kept sinking into the ground because it was built on an old stump dump. You can go through every time the state's involved where it's cost us ramifications down the road. I am a huge supporter of the lakes. I don't own property on the lakes. I was very disappointed this year when the selectmen wouldn't put a warrant article through to give the lake associations a little bit of support. I brought that up and they wouldn't do it. Because that's what we've historically done with most lakes anyway, with that. And they wouldn't do that this year. I'm a big proponent of protecting the lakes. And like I said to a gentleman when I was on the planning board, if we had known 50 years ago or 75 years ago what we know today, you wouldn't have the development on the lakes that you have. But we're stuck with it, and we have to try to protect what we got. And as the past chairman of the Warren Finance Committee, and many years, I've always raised my hand in affirmative to do anything at all to help the lakes. And there is solutions, and the solutions is having these conversations. This road committee, I come to most of the meetings. I'm a past member of the road committee. They've done a huge amount of work trying to address these issues. The state is saying, this is failing, and we need to fix it. That's what we just did at the canal. $125,000 for each town. Pretty good deal. They never touched the canal. We're supposed to do something with the bridge down on San Paul River. I think that's down less than 30% now. It's
23.
Falling in. The road committee is just trying to be proactive. And I take my hats off to them, because anybody that's volunteered on these committees that are proactive, it's an awful lot of work. And the misinformation that gets put out there sometimes ends up being negative, which is really too bad, because I've dealt with a lot of people around the lake, and I have never met one yet that wasn't a nice person. And the same thing with these people up here. They're just, everybody wants to do what's best, and hopefully, if you put that, if you stand that instead, you don't have to deal with Army Corps of Engineers, you don't have to deal with DEP, you don't have to deal with Department of Inland Fisheries. And the price difference really would be, if we had the same person, it would be an hour one, and that comes out very, very good. Short money. So it's just something for everybody to think about. And if Leslie doesn't shut me off, I just keep talking and talking. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming, I appreciate it.
My name is Scott Lansbury, 998 West Shore Drive. We've owned property since 1972 on the lake, and we're now living full-time on the lake. In addition to being retired, I'm also a board member, so is my wife, with Acton Chapel Youth Conservation Board. We've been with ASYCC for a number of years. One of the key things that we attempt to do is to maintain the quality of the lake, the water quality, and also erosion control. One of the very important things is the state of Maine qualifies the Square Pond watershed, or actually the Square Pond itself, as basically it's not a component of, I'm trying to think of the word, I lost the train of thought. Basically, the sediment chemistry makes the lake very sensitive to further issues coming down the road. One of the things that causes that, actually, boat traffic, oils, and exhaust that are emitted into the water. The fact that the water only changes once every 3.27 years is a major concern. We did about 1,500 boat inspections on Square Pond. Mousom is almost 8,000 inspections. They don't have a bridge. We have a bridge. So it's sort of self-limiting, but fishermen are still able to go through that. There are some boats that are 20 feet, stern drives, that still can go through that culvert. But if you have a party boat, that presents all sorts of issues going down the line. One of the key problems that we used to have when Sandy Candle was president of the association is a statement basically that says, don't do it in the lake. Well, one of the problems that we have, whether you realize it or not, is people who put their boat in at the launch site don't go back to the single porta potty that's available there. Guess what? They're taking a leak in the lake. They're not just jumping off the boat to cool themselves off, or you don't see fishermen just dumping pans of water into the lake. That's urine. The quality of our lake is unquestionably tied to boat traffic and the size of boats that come into our lake. And I don't know how you address that, other than try and get people to go, if they're bringing their boats in, get them to go back to the launch and do their business back in the porta potty. I don't know how you manage that. But putting in a bigger bridge presents a whole host of issues going forward. If the bridge is currently limited in terms of its lifespan, one of the things I think that should happen is that the bridge should be posted with certain weight limits. There are trucks from Levesque Construction going back and forth as they remove the soils at the end of West Shore Drive, fully loaded, doing their thing, bouncing across the top of that. They need to be slowed down. They need to be limited in terms of the amount of weight the truck carries. I think that that should be done at a minimum. And I'm not sure who within your commission would be specifically responsible for doing that. But I think that is something that is very critical if we're trying to make this thing last longer. Now, in terms of public safety, there is a new connection to West Shore Drive coming from Rudy Pepin's gravel pit. It's quite a substantial road. Comes in around 824, there maybe 724 West Shore Drive. Rudy's intending to put his own house in there as well as some others. By the way, that connects right through the gravel pit to West Shore Drive, down by the lawn. So in terms of emergency access, there is emergency access. Should there be something that the town can work out with Rudy Pepin for an emergency access situation, should the bridge fail unexpectedly. I remember back when it was put in originally, that there was a road that we went around as the culvert was replaced to connect to West Shore Drive. Anyway, I think those are some of the considerations that should be given to what happens in the near future. I appreciate your support. Thanks.
Where are you from? No, I know you're West Shore Drive. What's the board you're on?
Acton Shapley Youth, ASYCC. My wife Debbie and I have been on that board for a number of years.
He says what, the Acton what?
Acton Shapley Youth
Yep.
Conservation Corps.
All right, thank you.
I recommend that you go on asycc.com and you can get a whole host of activities that we are involved with in the town. And one of the things that we mentioned earlier is we were helping with the 319 grant program as a result of the watershed survey. That 319 grant provides the opportunity for the town of Acton to get $60,000. The town of Shapley basically captured the $60,000. The town of Acton passed on it. It's still available if you wish to pursue the 319 grant. Thank you.
Wait, one more question. So you said that we didn't take the money,
You didn't apply.
and who was supposed to apply for it?
$60,000 to get another $60,000.
Yeah, but who was supposed to apply for it, though?
Pardon me?
Who's supposed to apply for it?
I don't have that information. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever.
I wasn't
we've
aware of
never heard
that.
about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And, the young lady came and talked to the board of selectmen about it, and I thought it was matching 60 to 60.
Probably, it could have been the door by Mindy, who was working on the soil and water.
Very,
Yeah.
She's still very much involved in activities on the lake and all those
and
places.
the board of selectmen said no. That's who said no.
Any other
No.
questions?
Good opportunity.
Hi, my name is Bill Rosencrans. I live at 360 Cedar Drive in Shapley, but I'm on the board of the SPIA Association. I think everything I've heard is the challenge to the team here is to figure out what is the least obtrusive compliant color change. It's got to be a certain width, on a certain height, maybe that's negotiable. It doesn't have to be a big rectangle. It could be an arch. It could be a multitude of shapes that can serve the purpose of, for limiting the size of the boats that get to the lake. So the challenge is, what is the design engineer going to do to give you guys some choices? He showed you a rectangular box. Pretty simple, pretty fundamental. There's a wide variety of choices that you can look at. But you guys aren't engineers, you can't do it. You got to have your designer give you a slate of alternatives.
Thank you.
And you say, I can just talk more.
Is anyone going to save us from Dennis speaking again?
I just have a question for information from Will. What is the normal limit on bridges that get posted, I guess, in the winter and springtime?
Geez, now you got, Adam, help me out with this.
Is it like 12,000, ridiculous?
Oh, it's 21,000, it's 21,000.
20,000,
21,000
That's what
pounds.
it's
Right. Could you guesstimate what one of these humongous dump trucks full of gravel,
You can Google it, they'll tell you.
okay?
Concrete truck.
Ton and weight.
And the concrete trucks, but just, I think it's well over the 21,000 limit.
Yeah, you're probably like 70, probably.
70,
Okay, we've got
80,000.
50 of those trucks going up and across that bridge every single day.
There's 50 of them?
40 to 50 every day.
I can show you the camera snapshots. I catch them every single day. How many go by?
How about some user fees? Why don't we get some user fees?
They would be the selectmen. The selectmen would have to do that.
I'm gonna do this again, sorry.
All right, no, feel free.
Look at it, Dennis.
A couple of years ago on the planning board, I wanted an ordinance that did just exactly what you said. Like people would charge so much a ton for not only the material they're hauling out of a ton, which is definitely impacting value. And plus these trucks that are $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 pounds. The damage they do on these roads is unbelievable. These roads weren't built for these trucks. The other thing is talking about the posting of the bridge, which I'm not opposed to. But we've had the canal bridge that was posted for 6 ton for 10, 15 years.
It was actually 3 ton.
Okay, last time it was, but it was 6.
Oh,
and I'm
6,
gonna-
and yeah, it was 3 ton.
Three. Which didn't amount to hill of beans because the big trucks still kept going over it and nobody would do anything. And now we have the one down at the Pampa posted to no trucks. And they're still going up and down off. So reality is, you can post it, but the Board of Selectmen have to put a bug in somebody's ear to make them enforce it.
Dennis?
Road Commission can't enforce it, and neither can anybody else.
Dennis, I have a question. Can the sheriff enforce it if there's no ordinance or if it's just posted?
No, because the Sheriff's Department doesn't.
There's no way to find out the weight of the truck.
He could probably pull them over speeding, but
It's a
DOT.
It's a DOT, but the selectmen can use their influence with the state police to say, this is a problem, and it's causing us irreparable harm, and you guys need to do something about it. This is what we're paying for. This is what we pay the selectmen for. This is what we pay the state police for, and everybody else. But I've never known the sheriff to be involved in anything to do with trucks. You met? No, it's always a state. I don't talk to you.
Just to continue what Dennis was saying, I have called the DOT. So maybe they've heard from one. I don't know if anybody else has called the DOT.
Call the sheriff's department.
Sheriff Department's not going to do it. State police are not going to do it. And I'll tell you this, which I got directly from a selectman. You can go back 4 weeks ago and watch the meeting where he is a person who has a company with lots of big trucks. And he said, we're not afraid of the sheriff. We're not afraid of the state police. We write it off. It's a ticket. DOT can cause problems. They're afraid of DOT. So if everybody calls DOT, Google it, you'll get the phone number, and complain about the number of trucks, these 40, 50 trucks. Tandem, one day I almost died, tandem, which was almost as good as the day as I'm driving home, and there's a truck driving backwards down West Shore Drive, because they couldn't turn around at the end. That was, I couldn't believe. But they're on the other side of this, I will say, that work is being done in Chapley. Will is our district commissioner in Acton. He has taken it on himself, and and I think he needs to hear this from us, our appreciation. He has gone down there. He has gone down there and said, you guys, and if any of you know Will has his own way of talking. So I'm going to use the Reader's Digest version. And the polite version. You fellows are creating a lot of havoc here. Drive slowly and clean up after yourselves. Sweep the road and slow down. And it has worked. I've been down there alone a couple times, looking at several, men, and having also been on the planning board, the same one Dennis was on, and Leslie. I really don't get too upset with these big guys saying, little lady, what do you want? I want you to slow down your damn trucks, is what I want. And that's what I have said. But, Will, it made a difference. And, but the DOT is what makes a difference. So call DOT. And, Will, I'm going to do it to you again. The last time you filled the potholes on West Shore, you did a good job. They're a lot better than they were a month ago. Thank you.
Yes.
How are they holding up now?
They're holding up.
That's it. You're the one I was always worried about.
We're going for the DOT to enforce it, we need a limit.
Yes, you have to limit first before you get the DOT involved.
You have to do what?
Get the
You have to have a limit posted before you get the DOT.
Before we can enforce our rule, we have to create one.
We don't even have a speed limit. do we?
It's right
Yes, we
there.
Yes, we do.
It's a sign.
Where's the sign?
Right here.
Oh, at the very beginning. Yeah, but doesn't that, I think people think, okay, I'm going over the bridge, that doesn't mean here.
Still, any unposted road has a state limit.
Right.
And once again, the selectmen have to do this.
But the selectmen have to do that. We have to let the selectmen know we want action.
Isn't that property, that's Chapel, right? It's not active.
Way down
There are
at the
constructions
end.
going on.
Well, at the end, that's all.
So they're using active to get to Chapel.
Yep.
Right.
All right, anyone else?
Leslie, the email that I sent you also asked questions about the right-of-way or easement across, and I understand it's not easy to get the information.
I have not been able to find anything. I've been to Registry of Deeds and searched at Registry of Deeds. I saw Joe Stanley had posted something about the easement on your Facebook page, the Square Pond improvement. And I tried calling him, and he didn't answer my call. I even called his wife to try to get...
I have this from the town.
I don't think it has the dimensions on it.
No, but this tells you where,
Yeah.
the state doesn't own up to it. so-
Yeah, okay.
Okay? And
So
you're going to
that's...
have an issue if you're going to stand beyond what your easement is.
Right, I mean, and I have done everything I possibly can to try to find out what that easement is, and I've been unsuccessful at finding out. If anyone else has any suggestions on how we can access that information, I even had Jennifer contact the assessors, thinking that, maybe they might know something about it.
There was
And-
nothing from the 1998 code.
Nope, I looked at I went through all of the deeds, in that area. And I went back, probably 20 years or more. So,
If they expand it, and you're asking the property owners to...
no, I understand, which is, when I couldn't find that information, that's why I went down to measure to see, all right, let me get a ballpark, a rough, measurement of what we have there right now. Which was the 28-foot on the lake side and the 34 on the boat launch side. And it was, I think, 37 across the road, from the end of the culvert to the end of the culvert. But I have been looking for any kind of a deed or any kind of paperwork to tell me what the size of the easement is, and I have been unsuccessful in that. So, I don't know if anyone has any ins to try to, Joe had said something that he might have some information. He hasn't returned my calls. So I don't know if anyone else might have an in to get me that information. Or if, another avenue where I can look. Because I'll take whatever time it is to do the research. I just need to be pointed in the right direction at this point.
Do we have a town lawyer?
Several.
Yeah.
Seriously, we have several.
I mean, I can always ask the selectmen. I mean, I don't have the authority to contact the town attorney to research this. I know it would cost the town some money. But I can certainly ask the selectmen if you guys want me to pursue that avenue, I'd be happy to do it and ask them and see if they will approve that.
I can't imagine it has to be addressed at some point if there's any expansion of that culvert.
No.
You're gonna have to know exactly what you have for easement.
Right. I mean, and what are we considering the culvert? Are we just considering the culvert the round pipe, or are we considering it the gabion baskets, or what? What are we considering in the culvert? Because the gabion baskets are on both sides of the
I'm
pipe.
more interested in the size of your easement, the legal easement that you're going over people's property.
Right. And that's very important. That's critical.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Can't do the
And
grant without knowing that, correct?
no, they never asked that. They never asked that in the grant.
Well, I need to know to build it.
Yep.
Probably just have to spend the money out of survey, probably.
So, on Wednesday, at the next selectmen meeting, I will ask them if they will authorize the attorney to look into that for us. And I'll let them know that that was something that we all think is critical.
Could we also request that the road commission or committee ask the selectmen to allow you to post that bridge with those particular rate of whatever?
I second that, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That would, I think that would extend the life of that bridge somewhat, just by going from 70,000 pounds down to 12,000 pounds. It's going to take a lot of pickup trucks to take the same amount of gravel and haul that out of there or back.
What I'll actually do tomorrow is I'll call Pete Coughlin, and I'll tell him, and he'll be able to, you can post it with 3 axles or 4 axles, like,
And get the actual proper language, because,
I know, because I took a class, and they'll, if you tell them, like, they'll tell you, well, you can't have no trucks more than 3 axles, or no more trucks than 4 axles, and give you a weight, but so I'll call him tomorrow and get
I think the bridge report was, Joyce, you called me when that truck was backing up, and I looked at the bridge report. How many axles was it? Was it 4?
4.
There was 4 axles on that, in the bridge report the last time they inspected the bridge. So,
I think tonnage may come into.
tonnage, yeah, you want to ask about tonnage, not axles.
The empty truck is significant, but the full truck is far more.
Yeah, but the bridge report did address the number of axles that would be allowable.
All right, I'll look that up, and then I'll get like an actual, like, tonnage or what it.
All right, but I'll also, in my report to the selectmen, I will ask, Elias, I will ask if, about posting and the easement.
And the biggest thing is, if it does get posted and they're still hauling, you'll have to, that's when you.
DOT.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll call the DOT, there's many people here, residents will be more than happy to call the DOT once it's posted.
Yeah. You set them up, we'll knock them down.
All right, anyone else? I don't want to,
I just wanted to ask one question. Brian Furlan, 1308 West Shore Drive, and I am an acting resident, Grove Sanford. When we put together the replacement of this, from my perspective, we're talking public safety. To me, that's the road. The culvert, to me, I really don't care about the culvert itself. I care about the road. Right? I need safety. If I need a fire or police coming over, I need that road to be safe to come over. did we put a parameter in place that said we had to replace the entire culvert? Or did we even think, from the engineer's perspective, of putting a bridge over it?
No, because I mean, to be honest, I never even thought about the whole bridge thing until, you know, this winter when they brought that idea to the Wakefield did, and,
Yep.
and, you know, me and Dennis have talked about it, and I'll call the guy and see if he'll come look at it, you know, that could be another
I mean,
alternative.
because for me, and I agree with everybody, public safety, yep, I want that fire truck, I want that ambulance, I want, recently had some issues where I want that ambulance to be able to come down to my area, but from the culvert, I'm not worried about it, I understand that the state is worried about it, but from a resident's perspective, fill it in for all I care. You know?
Unfortunately, they won't let us
Obviously,
do that.
Obviously, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's serving a purpose to get the fishing boats through, to get certain size through. If you span it with a road, and then the culvert's, okay, continue to use it.
Well,
It's all yours.
and I've thought about it, and, you know, and seeing what they did on, I don't know if you've been over there, but seeing what they did on it, I mean, it's a pretty spiffy way to go, and not
It's
even have.
it's a different alternative to alleviate both concerns, both residents' concerns and public safety concerns.
Right.
And takes care of the issue. The issue is that we don't want to be driving over that one day and have my nose sitting someplace in the water, that's for sure. So,
I think, and you know, like the other thing, like with the bridge report, you know, like they said, they do it every year, and you look in the road commissioner ordinance, that's my job, that bridge is my problem, you know, and that's, and a lot of it, and then, you know, a lot of what we're at right now is just because of that, because you know, they send it to us every year, and that's, you know, in the past, things have been pushed off, haven't wanted to do with
from
it.
your perspective, it's the road that you're concerned about. The public won't have to do that because people are telling me that, but is that true?
Yeah.
Is the question. It'd be interesting to get some feedback on, sorry. That's why I tried to get off.
Well,
So if I can just get some feedback on an alternative plan, just that it's just a road, and not the culvert type, that'd be nice, good feedback to have. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
yes.
I appreciate that.
Will.
And by the way, yes, you guys are doing a great job, I wouldn't want it.
Will, when you talk to Michael Bean, the one thing I would tell him is that it's on a curve. I don't know if that is gonna make a difference or not.
But that's the other thing too, is the curve, but I don't know, I think you could probably span that bridge. I don't know, you probably could make it to span the corner. I mean, if they can do just about anything with concrete nowadays, so.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, it's something that you should probably make sure he knows before.
And, I mean, there's quite a few things to consider there, because you have the driveway, you know, you have that other driveway right there, so, but, I mean, I can call, I mean, I'll get his phone number from Adam tonight, and I'll just call him. see what he
Okay.
thinks.
I was gonna say, because I believe the curve is because of the culvert.
Yeah,
Had the curve in order to get that culvert to come straight across versus you could actually shoot right across straight without having that curve.
And I wasn't here before that culvert went in, so I have no idea what it looked like before.
That culvert was made, the curve was made so that the culvert would be square, would be perpendicular to the water coming through, so it'd be a nice straight shot coming through. If you look at that bridge, you can span straight across.
I don't know.
oh, you're talking about going right in a straight line, right over?
Yeah, I would be like, come right off the edge and just go straight across. the other
Oh,
side.
I thought you were talking about, oh, you're talking about going right over.
Yeah, right over. Don't even worry about the culvert whatsoever. I'd be interested to see if it would be cheaper.
Yes.
Yeah, much.
I mean, so here we are going after a $200,000 project that might be cheaper.
But either way, the grant would pay with whatever way.
Right. And that would flush out some of those issues of if the state is really looking to get, you know, they have an ulterior motive here, that flush it out. It's like, oh no, we can't do that. Well, why not? It's not even touching it at all. It's not touching it whatsoever, you know? Anyway, just my thoughts. Thank you.
In fact, if that culvert did start to fail, that's what we do immediately to maintain access. But a temporary.
20, 30 years. 20 to 30 years later,
Anyone else?
Brian, right near that culvert.
That's true, yeah.
All right, so if no one else has anything, then I will talk to the selectmen about posting the bridge. Having legal look at the easement so we can get an actual measurement. Will, you're gonna try to get inland fisheries and Army Corps and DEP here?
Yeah.
How would we be notified that? I mean,
When that happens, I'll have like, I could probably I'll call Lee, and, you know, I'm sure you all have like a page.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
phone tree.
And then I can also
So we
have,
don't need one of them.
I also have Lee's email, so if I need anything to go to
no, but when I
everyone.
know it's set up, I'll call Lee, and I can have him posted in the town hall on the Facebook page thing there, so, and then people can.
Thank you. Perfect.
Yes.
Leslie, I just wanted to thank you for putting this together and having the opportunity to have an open dialogue.
Well, we needed to do this.
This is great.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see everyone here. I'm happy to see everyone coming forth with, you know, some good ideas. I mean, we all know that culvert is a problem, and we don't want to destroy the lake. So, and this is a good way for all of us to, you know, to have that open dialogue where we can come up with potential solutions that we all can live with. So, so Will's you're gonna set that up, you're gonna talk to Michael Bean about possibly overlaying the bridge?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, you mean like going like straight shot?
That was just a recommendation.
So like when you come around, like when you're ready to
So
start?
I was thinking from a culvert perspective, I was like, okay, everybody's trying to get the culvert replaced, and I'm like, well, put a bridge over it, and I'd go over it. You know, and that's all I care about is the police and fire and ambulance to be able to get down to that other area. So I'm concerned about the road.
So just like.
My thing is I'm concerned about the road.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about the culvert.
Yeah. So, I'm also gonna look into that 319 grant, that you talked about, because that's something that I'm not familiar with.
I'd like to just suggest that you go look into Plan B, just in case the culvert should fail or be weakened to an extent that it cannot be utilized or crossed. I suggest that the commission talk to Rudy Pepin about getting an access through his property to skirt the bridge entirely in a case of emergency. So police, fire, ambulance can get to West Shore Drive on the other side of the culvert in an emergency.
Okay, we can do that. I believe I have Rudy's phone number, so we can certainly do that also. All right, so Will, you're gonna notify all of us when you get DEP. Do you want to set another date for our next meeting?
Well, let me call those people tomorrow and see if I can get anywhere, then I can.
Well, I want to make sure, because I want to make everyone knows that, well, we can notify you when our next meeting will be,
I
Joe.
can always, like I said, sounds like you guys have a lengthy email page.
You know, because we welcome you guys to come here. I wish we saw more people at meetings, because we don't have all of the answers. I mean, we need, you know, we're trying to do our best for the town, but we don't, I mean, I know personally, I don't always see the big picture, and I need, you know, because I can't think of everything. So coming here and having you all speak gives me a better idea of where everyone is feeling. We gave you the information that we were dealing with, and hopefully we, you know, through an open and honest dialogue, we'll reach a good solution.
All we can ask for.
Tomorrow will come.
Thank you.
Okay.
My alarm clock still rings at 4:00.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?